Hundreds of Pakistanis displaced by conflict in the country's northwest region had been lining up to receive food aid when the suicide bomber struck. At least 43 people were killed. More than 70 others were rushed to a local hospital in the Bajur region near the Afghan border. The Pakistani Taliban has claimed responsibility for the attack. The group spokesman says they were targeting locals who'd set up a militia allied with the government to fight the Taliban. Al Jazeera's Kamal Haider has the latest.
This the scene of attack where a suicide bomber targeted a World Food Programme distribution center in Bajur agency. Victims were lining up waiting in hundreds for food rations when the bomber struck. Scores of needy were left killed or badly injured.
We have to, for a while, maybe stop the food distribution so that the area is cleared, people can come in and go out of this distribution site. And depending on the situation, we will decide on resuming our food distribution.
The World Food Programme helps millions of displaced by war and recent floods in Pakistan. For Bajur's people, it was a day of horror as loved ones were rushed to the only hospital in town. Even in the best of times, this hospital cannot deal with large emergencies, but today was especially hard as it was also a national holiday. For those fortunate enough to survive, the scene nonetheless one of utter despair.
We went there to get food items which were being distributed. Suddenly a woman came and the blast occurred. Many people died and then I don't know what happened. When I regained consciousness, I was covered in blood and was in a canal. After that, soldiers took us to the hospital.
In the past 48 hours, Pakistan has suffered an escalation in attacks, both against civilians and the military alike. Bajur may have witnessed another bloody day in its ongoing troubles, but the fear is that this will not be the last attack. Kamal Haider, Al Jazeera, Islamabad.
US President Barack Obama has condemned the attack. In a statement released by the White House, he said the United States stands with the people of Pakistan in this difficult time and will strongly support Pakistan's efforts to ensure greater peace, security and justice for its people. Well, for more now on the spiralling violence in Pakistan, I'm joined by Murad Khan. He's a former spokesman for the Pakistani military. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me start first with the statement by President Obama. There have been several attacks over the past few weeks in Pakistan targeting both civilians and the military. Why do you think he responded to this particular attack?
Which speaks for itself. The attack was, it is second time in the Militants attack which was logged in Pakistan where the female suicide bomber was used. First time it was in 2008 when a female suicide bomber, she tried to attack a checkpoint in Peshawar cantonment, but before she could reach the checkpoint, she was engaged and she blew herself. And this is the second time when a female suicide bomber has been used to target the soft target in the area.
Right. What about the fact that this suicide bomber targeted a food distribution center for people who'd already been displaced by violence in other areas?
You know, for the past couple of months, you see that there's a change in strategy and pattern of attacks of militants, because in the 7 FATA regions, in the 6th, the military have conducted operations. And I would say that the military has successfully neutralized the militants in the tribal region of Pakistan. Now what these militants they do, that they go underground. Most of them, they go across the border, like Fazlullah, Maulvi Faqir, Qazi Zia Rahman. What Pakistani outfits say that they have gone across the border in Afghanistan. Well,
let me ask you this. If you say the militants have been neutralized, what about the attack against those security checkpoints just 2 days ago, in which several Pakistani soldiers lost their lives, several others were injured?
I was coming back to that point. This is the only attack in the past few months where the security checkposts in the tribal region have been targeted. If you carry out the analysis for the past a year or so, the militants normally target soft targets which are less secure in the urban areas of Pakistan. Every second day you see targets are attacked in Peshawar region, Islamabad, Lahore, and all country is suffering because of these militants. And the objective of these militants is to terrorize people, masses, and bring them against the government, who is front-line ally in the war on terror with the United States against these militants.
I just want to get some clarity on who's fighting who here. Are these Taliban fighters targeting people at random, or are they targeting specific groups? Because we're getting some reports that in this particular instance, that the militants targeted a certain tribal group, the Salazai group.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the pattern, now they target those tribes. Like, I will tell you that the strategy of Pakistan and United States in the war on terror is not working because their military strategy is not being supported by the political strategy. Now what happens is, in the Pakistani tribal area, the military go into an area and people come up and support the government in their drive against these militants. But what happens that the military, when leave the area and go to another area, there is no political process to support that military strategy, and all those tribes and individuals who have supported the government against these militants, they are being targeted. And that's what, like Salazai tribe, they were the first tribe who made that Lashkar against this Taliban when the government first time launched in 2008 the operation against militants. So they aligned
themselves with the government?
Yeah, Salazai tribe, they were the first one who made that Lashkar against these militants to fight in Bajur agency. And the same thing they are doing, like the government officials who are from that part of the country, and they are serving the government in any capacity. These militants, what they do, they target those, their families, their property, just to terrorize the people that these are supportive of the government. They might not be actively involved, they might not be serving the military, but they are part of the government, they're being targeted.
One final question, and that is the U.S. drone attacks. The U.S. does not admit that it's carrying out drone attacks, but does it help or hinder the security process in Pakistan? It's very unpopular, of course, in
I would
Pakistan.
say that the main cause of their war on terror, which is not a success, and the negative perception in Pakistan is because of the drones attack. Now, it started in 2004, and until now more than 2,000 people have been killed, and out of those 2,000, 150, the information released by the US intelligence agencies, and those information were not verified by other agencies. Only 150 individual has been killed. So you draw a comparison for killing 150 militants, so-called militants. None of the Taliban commander has been killed. None of the Al-Qaeda top leadership been killed. 150, and on the other side, you are killing 1,815 innocent women and children. And that is the perception which is further adding fuel to the negative perception against the United States in this war on terror in Pakistan.
Murad Khan, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome, sir.
Military officials in Sudan say troops have killed dozens of rebels in the country's Darfur region. The fighting took place in Shangil Tobai in northern Darfur. 3 government soldiers also died in the fighting. Mohammed Edo has the details from Khartoum.
There seems to be no let-up in the fighting in Darfur. The latest battles happened in the town of Shangil Tobai, not far from the North Darfur town of Dar es Salaam, where fighting first began on Thursday. And this time, the government forces say they were on the offensive. Al-Sawarmi Al-Khalid, the spokesman for the Sudanese armed forces, confirmed that his forces attacked the rebels and managed to kill up to 40 of them, including 1 senior field commander from the Justice and Equality Movement rebel group. These are, however, claims that we cannot confirm independently. The United Nations African Mission in Darfur has confirmed a huge military buildup on that part of North Darfur and has called on all parties to show restraint and ensure that they give access to humanitarian aid workers to access thousands of people who have fled the renewed fighting.
Nearly 14,000 people have fled post-election violence in Cote d'Ivoire, according to the United Nations. They're seeking refuge in neighboring Liberia. The violent standoff after last month's presidential election between incumbent Laurent Gbagbo and his challenger Alassane Ouattara has killed nearly 200 people. Most of the refugees are women and children, and the UN says their humanitarian needs are increasing. Some Ivorians say they fear a return to